Hello, it's Wednesday. It's the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show. How are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are well. If you are joining me live, then do say hi in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. Let me know where you are joining from. And of course, Happy Healthcare Professionals live show goes live in 3 places every single week. We go live in the Pharmacy Freedom Method Facebook community. We go live on my YouTube channel, which is Kamal, the Pharmacy Career Change Coach. And we also go live on LinkedIn. So if wherever you're joining us from, do say hello. Today has been an epic day because today has been Pharmacy 24. It is like the celebration of pharmacy, which I've been so excited about. And I have to say, the chat in Twitter has been insane. So if you have not been looking to see what's been going on in pharmacy, type in hashtag Pharmacy24 and just see the amazing breadth of what we're doing in pharmacy. And today's been really celebratory. We're celebrating everything that pharmacy has done for our communities over the last year and for decades. That's what we do. That's our bag, right? We step in when we are really needed, just like all of our other healthcare professional colleagues. And we really have been celebrating pharmacy today. And it's been amazing to see and really kind of experience everyone's different experiences of pharmacy and showcase what we do. And honestly, if you have not seen it on Twitter, then you've got to go on there, stick a hashtag Pharmacy24 and just see the amazing breadth of what we do. And the culmination of today is in this conversation that we are going to have today about conscious leadership in pharmacy. And I cannot wait to have this discussion because it just serendipitously is the word, has ended up being the conversation that we chose to have today. So hello, hi Ahmed, joining us from Saudi Arabia. Amazing. So happy to have you join us. So if you guys don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Kamal. I am a former national level pharmacist here in the UK. I used to be the head of dispensing and supply at the Pharmaceutical Services Negotiating Committee. I'm now a pharmacy career change coach, and I absolutely love supporting pharmacy colleagues in being able to reinvent their careers, achieve their ambitions in their careers, and create lives that they just feel really fulfilled by, that has purpose, that has meaning, because isn't that what we just all want in our life, right? So without further ado, I want to introduce you to an amazing, phenomenal colleague of mine. And, you know, quite frankly, I consider him to be a friend of mine. He is Yousaf Ahmed. He is the Chief Pharmacist from Practice Plus Group, formerly known as Care UK. And he has held some amazing positions at national level here in the UK, both at the UK CPA and RPS in both expert advisory panels. And he's also on the General Pharmaceutical Council. He has been so since 2020. And he's also a non-exec member of some amazing digital healthcare companies as well. He really embodies what I believe to be conscious leadership in pharmacy. And in today's discussion, we are going to be discussing that and so much more. So without further ado, let me introduce Yousaf to the screen. Hello, Yousaf.
Hey, Kamal. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody.
Do say hello in the comments. Do give us any questions that you've got as well. You know, share any questions that you've got for Yousaf throughout the discussion that we have today. So, Yousaf, I've done a semi-introduction to you, I would say.
You've done a very good introduction to me, actually. I need to cut that recording and keep it. And so you can keep it with me.
I will happily be your spokesperson.
Indeed. And you're absolutely true. I consider you as a friend now, Kamal. And more importantly, I think when you align values and thought process together, friendship comes very easily, and it certainly has come very easily here. So I echo what you just said there. Thank you.
So tell us about yourself then.
God, That dreaded question. I'm typical being a Scotsman, we've been told not to talk about ourselves, but, that's something that I'll grapple with over time, I guess. But, that I've been a pharmacist since I qualified 05, 06. So this is my 16th year as a pharmacist. And I tell you something, it feels like 16 days. I'll be honest with you. It feels like 16 days. I've had the time of my life professionally, undoubtedly the time of my life. And maybe because that's kind of how my brain is hardwired, I just focus on the great stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's been difficult aspects of my career and I've had difficult times, but for some reason that doesn't stick. What the good stuff sticks with me. So I qualified in 0506. I remember I had the chance to go into community pharmacy for my pre-reg or hospital pharmacy. And granted, what Pharmacy 24 has shown us, there's so many other variants of pharmacy professionals, but even 15, 16 years ago, there was only really two major trunks, if you want to call it that. So I decided, even though I worked as a Saturday boy for most of my kind of undergrad, I decided at the time to do something that scares me, which is hospital pharmacy. And only when I look back at it now, I realize that's ingrained in me to be uncomfortable, to be comfortable in the uncomfortable space. So I remember choosing going into hospital pre-reg, and thankfully, I had the opportunity to do that. And I think that set the tone of how I was professionally, to always push and remain uncomfortable. And that was the only constant. And even now, when I look back at it, that's the only constant in my life. So I spent the first 10 years working in hospitals, mainly in Scotland, but also had the chance to work in the Middle East for a short period of time. Again, that came through an opportunity of just saying yes, and within that first 10 years of my career, I worked in the Middle East for a year. I worked with 8 years in the NHS. I did a year for a private independent company as a hospital pharmacist. So I spent the first probably decade of my career just sucking everything in. And during the first 10 years, I kind of spent a lot of time self-developing. So the typical MSc, the typical clinical pharmacy MSc, the independent prescribing. I got into pain management. I did a postgrad in pain management. On top of that, I spent a lot of time doing leadership programs, both in terms of from the NHS and outside, and anything I could get my hands on, So I think it was definitely sort of my proper learning happened as I got out of university, I think, both professionally but also kind of intellectually. And I kind of gravitated towards, leadership, gravitated towards learning how to be a better version of myself or others, gravitated towards understanding myself a bit more in that decade. And I think all those experiences, both within the NHS, at various hospitals, both at abroad, but also in other sectors of hospital pharmacy, I kind of got a good breadth of knowledge of where we are. And throughout all the first decade, I spent every Saturday locuming in community pharmacy. The typical Asian child, wasn't I? You couldn't stop me from pharmacies, couldn't stop me.
I remember those days. I remember doing 7 days a week. Working in hospital and then going off and working in community pharmacy on Saturday and Sunday.
I'm pretty sure, although I don't want to admit it, some EU time directive must have been broken, for most Asian pharmacists. But, I loved it. The fact is that when I look back at it, I loved what I did. And I know I'm fortunate in saying that, and I know many colleagues that find parts of pharmacy very difficult. And I totally get all that and understand that, but for me is I found a kind of a love of people through pharmacy. I remember even deciding whether or not to do pharmacy. I was that typical Asian child. Should I go into medicine? Should I do pharmacy? Should I go in to do my A levels or hires, as we called advanced hires, as we called them in Scotland. So I fell into pharmacy, to be honest. And it was probably the luck of my parents, my family, and also the luck of being admitted into pharmacy that has led me to this. And I kind of just taken every opportunity I can. So after probably the first 10 years, I kind of thought to myself, what do I want to do? So I turned 30 and I started thinking, I'm getting too comfortable. I'm getting too comfortable. I was working from a very highly specialized pharmacy in terms of my clinical work, but also had the opportunity to kind of be a manager at the time and lead kind of small teams, and then also work cross-sectionally. So I was getting great opportunities where I was, but I wasn't feeling as challenged as I think as I wanted to. And this great opportunity came up to move to London to work for KUK, which at that time, for me, I only knew it by reading about it, but the opportunity of a chief pharmacist position came up and I just grabbed it. And after 3 interviews and, assessment day, I was lucky enough to kind of get that opportunity. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what it required to be a leader. I've always been a manager up to that point. And I think my transition from a manager mindset to a leadership mindset happened while I was in post. And I've always found that throughout my career, I've gone into jobs which I've probably not been ready for mentally or not been ready for intellectually, but I've always grew into them and I've always excelled as I grew into them. And I knew that would happen here as well. And so I took the opportunity to move to London, just turned 30, going into a new place, new environment, and I spent the first probably year just being totally scared. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? There's so many things. What have I done? I've just bitten off too much as I can chew. So I remember going home a lot of the evenings thinking, God, there's so much, and I'm not prepared. But equally at the same time, there was a couple of books that I was reading that kind of got me through it. And one of them was the 5 a.m. Club, which was kind of a way, that way quite well, was a way of being in terms of structuring your day in a certain way. So I got into a kind of a different way of being. And what I found myself is learning more in terms of leadership, learning what it means to care for others, learning what it means to take people on a journey, learning what it means to not necessarily do the day-to-day, but be there for people that when they need me, to give them the autonomy, the empowerment to do their jobs. And I think over the last 4 or 5 years as the chief pharmacist at Practice Plus, which was obviously KUK before, I've actually learned to give people the freedom to succeed and fail safely. That's my job. And I think that's what I've learned more so than ever before. And yes, we can all talk about, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've done transformational programs. I've done commissioning work. I've done financial kind of efficiency work. We've all done big ticket items. But as in my role and as leadership and as conscious leadership, as we get into, we need to focus on being there for others. And that's what perhaps has changed my way of being, totally changing from that manager to a leader, but also then finding out what type of leader I want to be. And I think the last 2 or 3 years in particular has been the culmination of perhaps my move to London. My career has gone from a fast pace to marathon pace through to sprint pace. Over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been lucky enough to get opportunities to, as you've said, to be a non-exec, to go on to advisory boards, to go on to research houses like the Journal of Pharmaceutical Practice, to be what I would say the pivotal part of my career, to be appointed to the General Pharmaceutical Council at a time where it was for everyone a new way of being. So I think what I found is if I've changed my focus from me to others, my career excels. And that's what I'm trying to envisage and empower and also talk about with other people. If you change your focus, your career transforms. And I think one of the things I've noticed in particularly recently has been the fact that, in pharmacy, your chief pharmacist is typically, your ceiling as pharmacy. And I don't believe that. There's many more things above the chief pharmacist. But what I do know is that your technical know-how will take you so far, but your value and your leadership know-how will take you all the way.
Yeah, you have summed up conscious leadership so well there, because basically what you're talking about when it comes to conscious leadership is focusing on others, right? And I mean, that's such a massive learning that your training's only going to get you so far, but beyond that, it's actually personal development.
Yeah.
Right? It's actually personal development, and personal development it's not something that we consider. I certainly do not see personal development as like navel gazing, one of a better term, right? That's not what it is, right? It is really about you understanding who you are as an individual, what your purpose is, what your mission is in life, and aligning everything that you're doing to that.
Yeah. And that, we don't spend enough time understanding who we are. We know we're pharmacists, but we don't know the human behind the pharmacist. That's more important, the human behind the pharmacist. And I think one of the big things for me is my own development through the last few years, through my coaching, being coached. I've actually, and again, this has transformed my life totally. So up until probably last few years, I was two different people. I was Yousaf at home, the husband, the son, the brother, and then I was Yousaf at work, the professional, the diligent, the meticulous thinker, the strategic thinker. I was two different people, and what my coach told me, and shout out to Amantha King here. He said to me, "You are doubling your work." I said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" You are, everything you're doing it twofold. You're computing it as you, and you're computing it as a professional. Double the work. And the penny dropped there. Oh my God! So I am. I'm thinking. I'm looking at every single situation at home and at work through two different lenses. It's double the work. What am I doing? And that was for me one of the big game changers for me at realigning myself as an individual, both at work and at home, i.e., be the same person, but also realigning me as being the true self. And this goes back to conscious leadership. Conscious leadership is bringing one's whole self with total awareness into your leadership position. So it requires authenticity to be who you really are. Conscious leaders focus on we rather than me, and realize that their role is to create a culture of trust, care, and influence. That blows your mind. It's conscious leadership is bringing your true self, and I think it's quite relevant in the discussions we have around equality and diversity and inclusion, and also the questions that we have around the snowy white tops, around leadership positions not being representative of the profession. Is that I think one of the things is that we fail to bring our true selves to work. That's one thing. And also industries and organizations fail to recognize the value of the true self of different people. And that's both goes hand in hand. And we could spend hours talking about each of the other, but in simple terms, I think we don't be our true selves at work. And I was like that. The first decade I was talking and being like people expected me to be rather than being myself.
We can all, I mean, I can certainly relate to that. I think we can all relate to that feeling, right? Where you kind of have to put on a different persona in the workplace, right? Compared to you at home. And, sometimes you hear those comments from people where they discover something about you that they didn't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, I never knew that about you. Right? I never knew you liked that thing, or I never knew that, you were interested in such and such. And it's because we're not bringing our full selves to the picture.
Yeah. It's funny that I was having a conversation with a colleague, a very well distinguished pharmacy colleague last week. I won't tell you his name, but he's very competent. He's strategic and goal orientated, but he's listening challenged. He's listening challenged. So he focuses on what he's saying, but not on what others around him are saying. And so it's affecting his relationships. Is threatening his leadership. He's not consciously aware of that. And what I said to him was, do three things. and this has helped me, because obviously new conscious leadership is part of everyone's journey. You know, whatever leader you are, you have to start with some degree of consciousness. So I said to him, do three things. One, get rid of your to-do list. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of your to-do list. And he said, why is that? Why is that? I said, to-do lists are reactionary lists. You know,
Absolutely.
leaders fall into the reaction trap. This means reacting to phone calls, reacting to emails, interrupting people. And reaction relies on the fight or flight response biologically in our primitive selves. And you know this, Kamal. So
Totally.
I said to him, and obviously he's a very science geek, typically being a pharmacist. I said to him, look into the neuroscience here. Studies have shown us that brain functioning demonstrate, you know, lower parts of our brain functioning when we look at, you know, reactionary. But when we engage our creative sense, our prefrontal cortex is engaged, which means that we leaders can do the jobs that they need to do, look beyond the to-do list. So I said to him, one, get rid of your to-do list, get rid of it. And a shock and horror, I know a lot of people probably thinking, God, I live by my to-do list, but I'll tell you something, get rid of it. And I said to him, number two, breathe.
Oh my God.
I said to him, breathe.
It's, you know, I'm so glad you're talking about these two things. And I just wanted to bring up Darshna's comment, because you're so right there, Darshna. You know, decompartmentalization is a must for conscious leadership. So as you're saying, you know, your sentiments resonate loudly. You know, those two things that you've just said about get rid of your to-do list, right, and breathe. I mean, honestly, those things are life-changing, and they sound like the most simplest thing. As pharmacists, we love lists. Let's face it. We love a good old list. You know, our lives are dictated by SOPs and lists of stuff, like, you know, and so we love a good list. And I will put my hands up and say I'm a former list maker, because one of the things that I've learned is I time block. That's what I do. I don't have lists, but I time block. I know the main things that I need to do, and I put them into my time blocks. And when that's my time block, that's when I will deal with emails, say, or, you know, or answering queries from people. You know, those are the sorts of things that go into my time blocking. And I do that every week. Every single week, I've got things on my time block. And breathing
has to be there. Mindful breathing. You know, and you know, this particular colleague that was saying these three things too. So as you've said, one, to-do list, get rid of it. Secondly, breathe. Mindful breathing breaks your thought process and allows you to tune into the conscious part of your brain, you know, and reward that part, but also help us to kind of connect with the thought that we want to have. So breathing and mindful breathing is actually an exceptional way to break the monotony of what's going on around you and focus on being your true self and focusing on what's needed for that point. So mindful breathing. And, you know, tell a pharmacist that, they'll go, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Tell most people that, they'll be like, really? And, you know, the last thing that I said to this individual was to slow down. To slow down. We have greater conscious awareness when we go beyond the reaction trap, go beyond the to-do list, look at our breathing, but also slow down our choices, creating those boundaries and allowing you to manage what's really important. So slow down, both in terms of where you are, how you're speaking, what you're doing, but try not to fill your day with tasks, with back-to-back meetings. Try to fill your day with value. You rather do one thing exceptional than 10 things good. You know, do one thing that changes the world rather than 10 things that keep it running.
You know, there's two things that I really do live by, and I think that we don't do this enough of, right? And what you've said about slowing down, you know, that concept of you actually, when you slow down, you actually speed up. And I know it sounds really paradoxical, but it's true, because what's happening is you are aligning with your values and your mission in life and your purpose in life. That's what you're doing. When you're slowing down, you're taking in, and you're also, what happens when you slow down is you're also allowing opportunities to present themselves to you. When you're going at, you know, a fast pace, and there's your diary is filled from, you know, 9 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning till, like, you know, 8 p.m. at night, you know, and it's completely chock-a-block with stuff. What happens is you actually miss opportunities because you didn't slow down. And that's something that we do talk about a lot in coaching. You know, we talk about the fact that you need to slow down in order to actually speed up, because we feel like we've got to go at 1,000 miles per hour to get to where we want to get to.
Yeah.
But actually, we don't need to do that at all.
No. And this is, again, accepting who you are. I think we do have, as a profession, we sometimes shoot the messenger down that isn't working in a community pharmacy, isn't working, you know, hammer and tong at everything that they do. And I think that's probably resident in a lot of professions, but we need to celebrate those that are slowing down, those that focus on one aspect, those that say that actually, I've had a great day of being at home with my family. I've had a great day of reading a book. I've had a great day. I've had 2 great conversations, and that has helped people. We don't celebrate that enough. Therefore, people find it almost, they're apologetic when they're having a break or when they're slowing down. But as you also said, is that slowing down actually is you speeding up, because ultimately you're putting your focus 100% into the thing that's in front of you. And I did that for a lot in my career in the past, that I thought about the next thing while I was in one thing. So I was thinking about my next task, my to-do list, what I need to do for the day, rather than being present in where I was. And that, for me, again, was one of the big game changers, was you have to be present where you are. And if you're feeling that your value isn't added, move on, go somewhere else, do something else. Tell people that I am moving on. Don't be somewhere where you don't have to be, or where your mind goes somewhere else. And we need to kind of be brave enough to accept it. Say, great, okay, thank you. Leave a meeting when you need to, or move and do something else, or say that I won't be valued here, or I won't be needed here as much as I would need to somewhere else. Be okay to say, actually, no, this is not needed, rather than just being there for the sake of being there. And I know what we're talking about, Kamal, it might be a shock to some people. It still is, you know.
Yeah.
It still is, but
Yeah.
we need to speak this way, because I think people need to learn about leadership and different ways of being, and how the world and how our profession was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago is nothing compared to how it's going to be in 10 years time from now, in 20 years time from now. And I think that's where I think the leadership, the managerial hierarchical style of the past will go.
Yeah.
And therefore, workforce itself won't respond to that. You know, my millennial generation, you know, generation Y and Z coming through, they're not going to respond to the hierarchical leadership that has been in place. And organizations have to really get up on this. You can't have a tiered down system of structure. That is not the future. And I think I learned a lot from other companies, especially in tech. I learned a lot from other industries and how they manage high performing teams, or how they construct high performing teams. And I think as a profession, we need to look outside of our boundary to understand how individuals and teams and organizations should start to form.
Yeah, there's so much of what you said that I want to pick up on, because absolutely. So going back to, you know, aligning yourself, if you're not happy in your work, right, really look at, one of the things that I always get people to do is look at which activities are giving you energy and which ones are taking them away. Because when you start to look at that, you're then starting to align yourself with, okay, which activities do I really actually love? Those are the things that are connecting to your true self. Those are the things that are connecting to your true self. And the other thing is, we don't spend enough time on actually understanding what it is we want to do. And, you know, this whole thing about vision casting, which is something that most pharmacists will find completely out there.
What are you talking about? Vision casting? Is that a new platform?
It's something that we do not do enough of. And that is something that I certainly have learned from my coaching experience and also having spent time away from pharmacy, actually, because that is how ideas come. That is how new structures are formed. That is how, you actually create things that you didn't even know were possible, because you've taken the time to actually sit in that space of dreaming and vision casting, right?
Yeah.
And going back to what you said about learning from other industries, we do not do nearly enough of that in pharmacy. If there's anything that I've learned through my experience of, creating my own supplement brand, becoming a coach, doing functional medicine and health coaching and all of that, is, I have learned an immense amount through putting myself outside of my profession. And that learning cannot be substituted. You cannot substitute that within our profession.
Yeah.
And we need more of that. We need more of the cross-pollination, right, between sectors, industries.
Yes. And there's a part of me that thinks, Conal, that's going to happen maybe against our will, or that will happen as the future evolves, because not only what the pandemic has told us, but also how healthcare it will be in the next decade. It will require cross-pollination with other industries. And if we don't proactively do that now ourselves, it will be done upon us. I think that's a given. And we're seeing that in industries already, the disruption of healthcare through telemedicines, digital healthcare, the disruption of healthcare from AI and machine learning, the disruption of healthcare through to moving away from how we did things before the pandemic and after the pandemic. All these big buckets mean that pharmacy is never going to be the same. And that's not a bad thing. And I think, great evolution. There's some core things that will stay with us. I still believe the heartbeat of the community is the community pharmacy. Things like that won't change, but what will be delivered in community pharmacy will change. Me that typically works in a hospital will start never to work in a hospital, will work in a pharmacy, or will work in a GP surgery, as we're seeing, or will work in a satellite clinic. And I think I would like the profession to be more agile and to be more forward thinking and to be open to cross-pollination with other industries. And I think that's where a lot of our future lies. Us running, albeit we might not be able to tell you exactly where we're running to, but we're definitely running in the direction that we need to head towards. And I think, going back to conscious leadership, I think one of the ways we can actually do that is being more authentic and conscientious leaders. Everyone is a leader. Every single person is a leader. Every single person is a leader in their own right. It's about what leader do they want to be. That's what the difference is.
Totally. It took me a long time to come to terms with that. I never, ever considered myself to be a leader at all in any way, shape or form. But, I have to say, becoming a parent kind of forced me into it. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, well, now I'm one. But the reality is, that we need to sit with that. We are leaders. Every single one of us is a leader. We have influence over somebody else, whether that's a patient, whether that's your colleagues, whether that's, your friends, whoever it is, you have influence over others. And when you have influence over others, you are a leader.
Yes.
Right. And, the other thing that comes to mind is I feel so much that in this kind of real rapid change and transformation that we're undergoing, not just in pharmacy, but in healthcare in general, we need to, what is our superpower? We often forget what that is. And that is our connection with our patients and our communities.
Yes.
And we can only really harness and embrace that more by being conscious leaders.
Yeah.
Because we understand ourselves, and therefore we employ those techniques of active listening and really understanding what it is that our communities, our patients, our teams need, and being able to adjust to that and deliver to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, emotional intelligence is a whole aspect that you're going into there, which for me goes hand in hand with leadership, but also conscious leadership. One of the things which for me resonates quite strongly is trust. And yes, we are, as a profession, we're one of the most trusted healthcare professionals on the planet, not necessarily just on the planet. Yet we perhaps interprofessionally within ourselves, we don't give that trust to each other as much as we should do. And that for me is a sad thing, but a true thing, that we need to, within leadership, within emotional intelligence, hand out the olive branch of trust to other people, and equally honor and respect that trust, that olive branch that comes out. And I think one of the things that we need to do, certainly as a profession, is help each other climb any ladder that their individuals are climbing. Help each other through promoting, through pushing, rather than through deconstructive ways. And albeit I'm all for debate, I'm all for discussion, in a respected and trusted manner. But I think we need to come together more so than what we've done to this date. And I think that's one of the things for me, especially around conscious leadership, that I need to instill, not only myself, but with the people that I'm surrounded by the fact that we are here to help you, and equally we want to help you to fulfill your dreams. And I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about, those human skills, not the soft skills, I call them the human skills. We need to develop our human skills more so on top of the technical skills that we develop. And we need to practice it within our profession,
Totally.
And that's one of the things where I think coaching, development, self-development, self-awareness, meditation, all really help you to hone into those human skills more so. And once you do that, I tell you something, it transforms your way of being.
It really does. It really does. I was talking to a colleague the other day about, because she spent a long time in leadership positions within the NHS. And one of the things that we talked about is how, as leaders, going back to what you were saying about, it's about we, often we don't even spend, we've all had leaders who haven't even spent 5 minutes talking to you, right? Getting to know you. When I was managing my team, I knew my team. I knew that, Janine goes to see her mom on a Monday after work. I knew that, whoever it is has got, she's got football practice on a Wednesday, those kinds of things, because I got to know people.
Yes.
And it was important to me to get to know people, because when you get to know them, that's when you can start to help them to achieve their goals in life.
Yeah.
Or you can see the things that they can't see. And that's a really powerful thing with leadership.
Yeah. I'm smiling. I'm absolutely smiling here. Absolutely smiling. The first 6 months of my chief pharmacist role, I spent with people. The first 6 months, I spent touring up and down the country, going to all the different sites, spending time with people. In that first 6 months, that investment helped me to deliver on all the big ticket items for the foreseeable future. That relationship that I built with individuals, with teams, with individual leaders, individual managers, helped me to deliver everything that I wanted to do in the 4 or 5 years I've been in my current post. And it was investment that was well worth it. And I can tell you now, I know every single person's birthday within my teams. I write a birthday card, I write cards galore. I contact people on the smallest thing, but I know that smallest thing makes the biggest impact. It's unbelievable.
Totally.
A thank you card goes a mile. That goodwill that generates is unbelievable. To say happy birthday to someone, to say to them, how is your mother? I heard that she was feeling unwell, or how's X, Y, and Z. To have a humanistic leveled conversation with them helps you to achieve your professional goals. We don't realize that, and it's only something that I realized obviously later on in life. But once you realize it, you need to do it, and it's a game changer. It's another big game changer.
Yeah, So, I mean, there's been so much that we've touched upon today. One of the things I really want us to talk about before, because I know we've been going on for a while now, and I know you said, we both said to each other, we could talk for hours really about this subject. But for anyone that's listening who is an early career pharmacist, right, who is just starting that journey, how can they start to instill and embody, you know, conscious leadership? And they've got leadership ambitions. Maybe they've got ambitions to become, you know, like yourself, sitting on boards, you know, being part of the RPS, being, you know, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, get help, have a guide, And you want to call them a mentor, great. You want to call them a coach, they do different things, but have a guide that you respect and trust to help you navigate. Now, I was lucky enough to have a guide without knowing I had a guide. People took me under the wing and guided me, and I didn't know they were guiding me, but they guided me. It's only now when I look back on it. And I myself have a coach and I have a mentor. They're all different things. But I have, the simple thing is I have people that help me to guide me through my career. And I would say that to an early years pharmacist, get someone that you respect to guide you. Forget what the nomenclature is. Just get someone that you respect to guide you. Second thing I would say to them is that do not stop learning. Do not stop it. Do not stop it. Learn. And that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, your technical know-how, your diplomas, your masters, you know, do that. That's great. But learn things that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. And it's even
whether it's like coding or, you know, understanding startup culture, whatever it is, just learn.
Whatever it is, learn and keep learning. And the third thing that I would say to them is say yes. See it. Yes. Anything that comes your way, say yes to. Simple as. You know, so if you do those three things, I guarantee you'll get a fulfilled career. And naturally, especially early years career pharmacists, you know, that millennial generation, that generation Y and Z, they will never stay in a position that's toxic. They move away very quickly, you know. So naturally, I don't give them the advice, or I don't give them the notion of, you know, move job, because you'll do that naturally. You're ingrained to do that. But the only advice, them 3 points I've given you, do those things, invest in those things, your career will transform. And also just give it a bit of time. It's okay. Yeah. Give it a bit of time. It's okay. And what we were talking about early on, slow down, breathe, slow down, and, you know, everything will come your way. And, you know, people say you have to pay your dues. I don't see it that way. I see it, you have to just learn. It's your learning cycle.
I agree.
On that bell-shaped curve, you're just coming up to your learning curve. So you just need to give it time, slow down, take it easy, but say yes to opportunities, you know, have somebody to guide you, and kind of more importantly, never stop learning.
Totally. Oh, such great lessons. And Dean's just said, learn for life and not for exams.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Dean. That's so true. If anybody's got any questions, if you're watching us live, do drop questions in the chat. You know, if you've got any questions for Yousaf, then, you know, feel free to drop them in the chat now. If not, then you can always drop them later on. Somebody else has said, love that. Keep learning and say yes. Simple and easy to follow career advice. Yes. Absolutely.
It's Absolutely. Easy to say, but, you know, it's hard to do, but get into it. And, you know, I've got quite a lot of early years pharmacists, and, you know, one of the things that they say to me quite often is that I don't know what to do. I don't know what, I've got so many things I want to do, I don't know where to start. Or I don't know what job I should go for. And, you know, that's the kind of the mantra I say to them, you know, focusing on the here and now, because tomorrow or 10 years from now will come. But if you instill good qualities in behavior and values and leadership now, that will take you anywhere you want to go. It will take you anywhere.
The other thing that I would say is intuition. You know, really listen to your intuition. Your intuition tells you a lot. And that, you know, that again, when you start honing in on that is your superpower. you know, you once you start, you know, really feeling into, okay, well, what feels right for me, it will tell you and it will guide you as to what's going to be the right choice for you.
Yeah. And tune into that, as you say, come tune into that. And there's times where I've not tuned into it and I've regretted it, you know. And we've all been there, you know. Oh God,
100%.
I knew I should have done that. I knew I shouldn't. Again, that's just learn. It's just your experience, and it'll make you wiser. But you know, the strongest courage and tuning into that gut feeling and having courage to do so. And if you do that, you know, that again is another great foundation to build your career on, being courageous. And many people think about, you know, disruptive individuals or being courageous or voicing your opinion. You might be seen as someone that perhaps is disruptive. I don't see that. I embrace disruptiveness, because those individuals perhaps are the ones that are going to change your organization. They just need that direction. It's like an arrow almost, you know. You just need to be able to point them in the right direction. So I would also say to people is that you might be thinking to yourself, oh God, that can land me in hot water. But to be honest, that hot water cools. It becomes cold, you know, and we all move on. Life moves on, things move on. But what you've learned and gleaned from that experience will set you up for future experiences like no other, you know. So failure, risk, you know, and being disruptive, that's all positive. It's all positive. And don't be fearful of that. Don't let that stop you doing what you want to do.
So many lessons in today's discussion, Yousaf. I am so grateful for your time. I always learn every single time we speak to one another. I always learn from you. I hope that everyone watching has learned, because, you know, the comments have been great. Thank you so much to everyone who's been commenting as well and watching us live. I really hope you enjoyed today's discussion. So I'm going to say bye to you, Yousaf, now. It's been fantastic to speak to you.
Everybody.
Really appreciate your time. And, you know, I hope that more people hear what you've got to say about conscious leadership and really take it in. So thank you so, so much.
Pleasure.
And I will see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to Yousaf. Thank you, every single one of you guys who've been watching today. Really, really appreciate you spending the time with us. And I look forward to you joining us next week for the Happy Healthcare Professionals live show, when I'm going to be talking with a group of really amazing pharmacists who are doing some incredible things in skincare. So I hope that you can join me next week. I'm super excited about that discussion as well. So I shall see you all soon. Take care. Bye.